Hello, can the remote moderator hear me? Hello, can the remote moderator hear me? Don't worry, I have 10 minutes. We can also foster license plane free community internet services in these privileged areas. An example is setting up free mesh network and connecting the communities to local community servers with open access content like Wikipedia, OpenStreetMaps, on-cloud storage, news, local agricultural content, free ebooks, municipal portals, chat rooms, and directory for all this content. I will talk about some infrastructure-based policies. The obvious one is sharing resources by service providers. These include masts, fiber cables, etc. You realize that the end user will foot the bill if every provider has to compete laying infrastructure that has less than 10% utilization overall. We also need to allow service providers to use infrastructure set up through taxpayers' money. This is more so through the legacy telecom monopolies that litter through the legacy telecommunication companies. We should allow service providers to use infrastructure set up through taxpayers' money. This is more so through the government-owned the legacy government-owned telecommunication monopolies that litter the landscape across Africa. An example is the national fiber optic cable, which was laid across Kenya by the government and is underutilized. Private sectors can make use of these resources instead of laying private infrastructure. We also need to streamline processes for infrastructure deployment. This is through efficient and effective access to public rights of way, coordinated with other infrastructure projects. You realize that when roads are being constructed, for example, they don't leave well lifts for these service providers to be able to use. We also need, of course, to establish internet exchange points and have data caching. The Access project in Africa is so far very successful, and it has already set up about about 4 IXPs. Energy. There cannot be access without affordable, sustainable electricity. Electricity is very expensive per kilowatt in developing countries. This cost is usually passed down to the users. Developing countries should seriously look for permanent ways of solving their perennial energy problems. In some instances, of course, we can power laboratories through solar and wind energy. But is this enough? Education. We need to educate our communities on the need to know the value of internet and how it can improve their lives. This will help in uptake. Content. We also need to develop policies that support relevant content that users will feel the need to consume. Most societies have solved the content problem to a greater extent. Thank you very much.
Biraz daha açabilir misin? Kız mesela hiç duymadı.
Ses, 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 ses. Yakın tutar. Ya ben onu ayarlıyorum zaten.
Tamam. Ben hiç dokunmuyorum şu an.
Tamam hiç dokunma.
Tamam.
Affordability as well as a key issue. You find that a big chunk of the population, up to 90% in some regions, where they earn less than $2 a week, they cannot afford to pay for broadband because they have other things like food, health. Three of the five world people are not connected to the internet. In developing countries, only that 1% of people are online. And in the world's 49 least developed countries, less than 10% have internet access. According to a report that was commissioned by the Alliance for Affordable Internet, the key to affordability is the policy and regulatory environment that shapes the different actors in the market. Reforms to make markets more open, competitive, and socially efficient are often the best and quickest way to drive prices down and increase broadband use. There are several policies that have been suggested for reducing the cost of broadband, especially in Africa. I will face these issues first through the political means and also to infrastructure development. Deployment. The number one obvious quick wins for increasing broadband access in Africa is through use of the Universal Service Funds, USF. USFs have been implemented in many regions, but are they being managed properly? We need better management of Universal Service Funds and community involvement in how the USFs are used. The Universal Service Fund should not only be used to provide infrastructure investment in underserved regions, but also promote digital literacy. We also need political goodwill on how these USF will be used. For instance, in Kenya, USFs were formed under an act of parliament in 2009, but the Universal Service Fund Management Board was inaugurated in July 2014. Operators are required to pay around 0.5% of their annual turnover to the USFTP. But the snail pace in implementing USF ensures the dream of broadband access to the masses is delayed and even deferred. Transparent and consultative process incorporating stakeholders' input and priorities in the management of USF is very important. Currently in Kenya, there is a tussle between the service provider and the government on Hello?
Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? Please take your seat soon. Good morning, everyone. Welcome you to participate our workshop for day 1. Policy design for promote broadband access for in developing countries. This workshop is co-hosted by Internet Society of China and the China Association for Science and Technology. This workshop has joined the capacity building program track in IGF. My name is Gao Ximing, in charge of Vice Chairman of Internet Society of China. As you know, the broadband access is one of the most important issues in the building of the information societies. Nowadays, a lot of countries and economies pay a lot of attention for sustainable development of the broadband access. According to my knowledge, nowadays, more than 127 countries and economies, the government has issued their national broadband plan in order to promote more balanced, more sustainable development of the broadband access. Because of the broadband access is most important things for boosting economic growth manners. So in this workshop, we are invited today a distinguished panelists to join us. They will make presentation and to give us a lot of advices in these issues. Today, we will start this workshop divided two parts. First of all, I invite all the panelists make their presentations and also make their speeches. After that, we'll leave the time to all the on-site audience and all the remote participants to raise the questions and make some comments. Now, please allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists here. They are the, maybe on my right hand is Miss Levy. Miss Levy. She is coming from Portugal. I think she's an expert in this aspect. She also involved a lot of policy research work in a lot of international organizations, including ITU, OECD, and also it's IGF. Next, my right side is Ms. He Jia. She's coming from China Academy of Telecommunication Research. She's also expert on this aspect and involved a lot of research work in broadband policy design works. On my left side is Mr. Harriet Forati from the World Wide Web Foundation. He told me he's started involved this area since 2005. He is coming to Tunis. You know, the 2005, the WSIS was in Tunis, the first meeting, very successful conference. And next one is Mr. Hu Lingxi. He is coming from Enterprise. It's a telecom company, biggest telecom company in China. It's a China Telecom. You know, the China Telecom is a major player and a carrier in the broadband access construction project. And also, we have another distinguished panelist. It's the Miss Claudia Seri from AT&T. Yeah. She's responsible of the European affairs at AT&T. I understood. It's right? Yeah. And I have another panelist, but he will make some remote presentation. He is Mr. Vandeva Kibev from Kenya. He's the chairman of ISOC Kenya chapters. We have 6 panelists, so I think we will start it from first presentation. I would like to invite Ms. He Jia from China Academy of Telecom Research. Please, you have floor.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jia He. You can just call me Jia. I'm from China Academy of Telecommunication Research, and today my speech is about broadband development and policy making in China. Broadband, as we all know, is one of the core infrastructures in today and maybe in the future, and it's very important for our economic, social, and cultural development, as it is applied in the health, education, business, governance, and many other areas. China, as the biggest developing country, and we have 600 million internet users. We already made a very significant progress for the development of broadband for the internet development. And today my speech will include the following 3 aspects. First, development overview, and second, policy making. The third is future perspective. Regarding to fixed broadband of China, in this graph you will see the number of subscribers is increasing by 5 times over the recent 3 years, and especially the FTTH subscribers increased by 10 times during the last 3 years. Also driven by the FTTH, our subscribers using access speed above 4 Mbps, and the developed country in fixed broadband subscribers are still obvious. And even though we look inside of China, the gap between regions in the fixed broadband penetration is also obvious. You will see the difference between urban area and the rural area, the east and west. So the main reason leading to the challenge is, one reason is from the inefficient investment. The second reason should be the inefficient competition, and the third reason should be the inefficient application. Also, we have many others. So how to figure out those challenges and how to develop the broadband in China? For the government, we made a series of policies since 2009, such as in 2013, we established a broadband development alliance, and in the March of 2013, we released FTTH national standards. And just in the August last year, we launched a broadband China strategy and action plans. I will introduce those one by one. First, in August 2013, the State Council launched a strategy, a national strategy called broadband strategy, speed and application. And in order to realize those goals, we identified 5 priorities: speed up application, industry chain, security, and the regional balance. What's more, the government to coordinate the government, the central government and the local government, the government and the enterprises, and the enterprises and users. So on the other hand, we focus our policies on facilitating competition, financial support, training, regulation, promoting information consumptions, and etc. Second, last year we released FTTH national standards. It's a mandatory national standards, include 3 important points. First, for all the new homes in the building, they have to use FTTH. That means the fiber should be constructed into the home directly. The second, the construction and the evaluation of the building of the telecommunication infrastructures should be at the same time as the construction and the evaluation as water, electricity, and gas infrastructures. Third, all the users should freedomly choose the carriers. That means equal access. Third, also in the last year, we established a broadband development alliance. Why do we establish this organization? Because during those years, as the development of internet, many problems raised by the users. So in order to improve the user's experience, this organization was established last year in a model of multi-stakeholder. The stakeholders are from technical community users, carriers, governments, application suppliers, and etc. Many stakeholders came into the alliance, and we try to solve some problems. The mission of the BDA is research on the speed measurement criteria, release some report, provide advices for the government, release industry guidelines, and coordinate the interest of stakeholders in the field, and provide some technical training. You will see one of the results of DBA's work. From this graph, you will see the download speed increase quarter by quarter in every city of China. So what we will do for this year, and in order to implementation of the national strategy, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology published a special action in 2014. This action mainly focused on 3 aspects. First, 3 afterthoughts. First, for China and even for developing countries, broadband has been developing fast, but the gap still remains there. Second, government support is very important, but participation from all the stakeholders are also crucial. Third, information consumption needs to be addressed in the process of broadband and internet development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. He. She made a very clear presentation about the latest development of the broadband access in China. She mentioned that last year the China issued the national broadband plan, so-called the broadband China strategy. The focus of this strategy, including 5 major aims. The first of First one is speed up of the access speed of the internet. The secondly is more balanced development in broadband network in the regional development, including the urban and the rural areas. The third one is promote the broadband industry development. The third one is encourage a lot of internet company to develop more new broadband applications, so including the contents creation in industry. Last one is ensure the internet security issues. I think it's a clear presentation. Thank you, Ms. He, again. If you have some question, we can afterwards to ask her. Next speaker, I want to invite Ms. Harriet. He come from the Worldwide Web Foundations. I think Ms. Harriet has 10 years experience in the manager of the multi-country project of the information and the communication technology. And particularly, he focused on the internet policy and the network policy. So I would like to invite Mr. Harriet make your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity. I'm gonna perhaps, it's good that I came after the first speaker, because I'm perhaps gonna be suggesting, or my recommendation in terms of policies are perhaps in the contrast with the situation of China, focusing mainly on developing economies in Africa specifically. So I'm with the Worldwide Web Foundation. Specifically, I'm standing for my colleague Sonia George, who's Executive Director of the Alliance for Affordable Internet. And the Alliance for Affordable Internet is a coalition that is working with local actors at the national, regional, and global level, with the aim to develop and promote policies that promote affordable access. And affordability has been has become quite an important issue to increase access to the internet and for broadband. And the Alliance for Affordable Internet produces on an annual an affordable index. And then that index, they look at different type of indicators, specifically under one sub-index that focuses on communication infrastructure, and the other index focusing on policies that enable access and affordability. This is more or less the sort of some of the results coming out of the index. We're busy this year collecting the data for the projection of the this year to 2014 index, but some of the top countries. However, it's important to note that I would argue that the fixed infrastructure is becoming the backhaul of mobile broadband, right, in specific developing countries. So it's not necessarily an either-or. But it's important that when you focus specifically on universal access, that we try to mention certain type of policies that enable the last mile. So which solution for the last mile? Copper is not necessarily the viable solution, as my colleague has mentioned. Fiber is, in the context of specific countries, is quite costly. So wireless technology is the option. Why then? Because we're talking about lower cost of construction, shorter time of rollout, and specifically, hopefully, lower cost for the end users. Sorry, yeah, I'm going too fast. So how is this? Can this happen? I'm suggesting sort of a different type of policy that I'm going to be talking about in the business environment regulations and physical network practices. So in the business environment, I think one of the main challenges in developing countries specifically is to have a stable regulatory regimes, specifically for investments. It's not a matter that, and I'm going to be a bit controversial if I'm saying this, but sometimes bad policies are not necessarily the most worrisome when it comes to investments. Because at the end of the day, investors or private sector operators can either deviate from that regulations or incorporating in the final cost, so someone like me or you would suffer. But what is actually quite stringent in terms of investment policy is uncertainty. So if a regulator, for instance, is not able of providing certain policies and stability over the long run, then that would affect the type of critique of the universal service funds in the context of developing and emerging markets. But it's important that we have policies not only on the demand side, not only on the supply side, but also complement these policies on the demand side through effective universal services rollouts. And that's all more information through these links, Alliance for the Football Internet and the web index as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriet. He stressed the importance for wireless broadband for developing country. I fully agree with you. Next speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Wu Lingxi from China Telecom Companies. You know, the China Telecom is the biggest operator in China in the telecommunication industry. And China Telecom already started
at least 8 Mbps customer access bandwidth, 30% of which should reach 20 Mbps. More than 80% of urban area in East China and provincial capital city of Midwest China should be covered with 20 Mbps customer access bandwidth. By 2013, customer access bandwidth of urban area in southern China should be reached 20 Mbps. China Telecom FTTH should cover 80 million households. By 2015, achieve complete coverage of household and enterprise subscriber in southern China. China Telecom FTTH should cover 100 million households. China Telecom's achievement in fiber city construction. As one of China's largest broadband operator, China Telecom is the initiator and main force of the broadband construction in China, and has made large-scale and continued investment on newest construction residential buildings are connected directly to high-speed fiber network. Priority is given to FTTB with FTTH as complement for older residential building reconstruction. In 2011 and 2012, China Telecom investment of city fiber optical broadband construction has renovation had reached 80 billion Chinese yuan. The total number of FTTH recent years, China Telecom has accelerated the construction of urban fiber optical broadband by permission fiber in and copper out activity, improvement broadband China fiber city structure, and carry out light up optical community activity. Leading the revolution of fiber in and copper out after the end of 2007, China Telecom first start home technology-based copper switch into a 8. China Telecom set up an e-serving broadband project team to work collaboration on business development, product development, marketing service, network construction, operating and maintenance, IT support, and other aspects of broadband development, form a great working maximus of cooperation. Technology together with a publication promote the rapid development of fiber city from different gram package. For new broadband subscriber, it launched 102 household, 1 M to 100 M to household, 20 M above package in the area where China Telecom optical network already has coverage. China Telecom will provide household with 100 M bandwidth access capability. For those required higher bandwidth, they can select a new optical network product package with more than 2 M of participate in policy making through a variety of ways, include clear call appeal, activity seek station support for broadband policies, activity carry out basic data collection, analyze anomalies. Finally, on the basis of open competition, step forward an open and sharing of the access network resource, award duplication, and enhance customer experience. Policy proposal on the broadband development policy for developing country. The first, actively accelerate the development of mobile broadband speed measurement standard, improvement in the broadband speed and the monitor system. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. He raised the principal issue.
An opportunity, and you can get it through the broadband access. Why broadband access and to make it global? Policies to promote infrastructure in developing countries, the bottom-up and top-down approaches, to strengthen infrastructure construction and capacity building, the role of G1, the best connected research and education network at worldwide level. And finally, I will make a presentation of a best practice. It will be the case of Portugal, where we'll creative and skilled workforce for knowledge-based industry. So it developed this kind of skilled workforce, and not only on your spot, on the city where you live, on your country, but at worldwide level. It builds ambitious international knowledge networks, as it is the case of G1. It is European, and it is connected with all the countries in the world. It enables networks of competence to reach global markets, induces the creation of new knowledge-based small and medium enterprises of global reach. So, direct jobs created to deploy the broadband infrastructure, so normal. The second one, indirect and induced jobs created from ICT activity. That is possible because you have access to not only to the internet but to the bandwidth with the broadband. And additional jobs created as a result of broadband network externalities. So as manufacturing, service industries, financial services, healthcare, education, you name it. 26% compared with 11% of growth rate. And more people are coming online. Here is something about the bottom-up and the top-down approaches. So first, you make market work. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of GEA. Well, GEA is a research and education network, an European one. But it has as one of the main objectives to connect the world on education and research components. So GEA is currently the best connected research network in the world, supporting the global research infrastructures. So let's see some numbers. It provides access for over 80% of users across the GEA service area to point-to-point circuits of up to 10 gigabits dedicated capacity. It represents a collaboration between 41 partners, representing in total 43 national research and education networks from Europe and nations, with the support of the framework program that supports research and development in the European Union. Now we call it Horizon 2020 because we started a new framework program. FP7 ended in December 2013. And in the slide before, you see the potential. So now let's go to the final part of my presentation, is the best practice case. So the case of Portugal. So I have like 3 slides about Portugal since 2005 until now. So we had this program mobilizing the information and knowledge society with different stakeholders since 2005. And this is to show, to demonstrate, to show some evidence that we, along with other countries called developed countries, we have lots of regions, as I mentioned earlier, that are very similar to developing countries. So the point here was to promote growth, employment, competitiveness, and productivity through the knowledge-based support to growth innovative ICT companies with international impact. We want to transform the education and developing competencies, priority to the use of internet and computers in schools, early connection of schools to the internet, and to generalize laptop computers with mobile broadband for students and teachers. We developed a multi-program approach to foster e-skills, open training and using the internet space network, provide free access to all citizens, and national e-skills certification system, basic ICT competences diploma that we were able to achieve with the broadband access. So through the free access and guidance, we were able to give, to make people more empowered, so the capacity building. And it allowed people to participate in the more in a democratic way in the society, which is called e-participation and e-citizenship. The training and awareness activities were para a Ciência e a Tecnologia in Portuguese, Foundation for Science and Technology. And so this fiber, it covers 85% of higher education system at 10 gigabits, and it is scalable. We have this open access scientific repository of Portugal that in the last IGFs it was possible to present. We developed the Beyond, that is the knowledge library online. We developed something that we call Zapiens, that is HD videos open repository with Creative Commons licensing and digital rights management. And another thing that is called InGrid, its national grid initiative integrated with Spain and part of the European Grid Initiative. The point here is to show that application projects in areas such as meteorology, oceanography, evolution of maritime coast, geophysics, seismology, high energy physics, material science, biology, health, forest, fires, and civil protection were possible and were very developed. We also developed the voluntary computing for science jointly with Spain. And finally, we were able to...
Here today, I'm delighted to participate in this panel, and I wanted, to touch in my remarks mainly on the technological evolution that has been happening in the last few years, as well as on the policy that can promote investment in the network of the future, and so to share with you also our experience in the US. As you all have noticed, we are in the middle of a global wave of innovation that is transforming the way we communicate, the way we connect, and the way we operate our business. There is not one industry that hasn't been touched by the technological evolution, and there will certainly not be even more other industry that will certainly be even more radically affected over the next few years by the technological revolution. Technology can help address many of today's economic and societal challenges. There are research and studies that show that in the emerging market, for example, 10% more of internet penetration can help add 1.2 percentage points in the capital GDP growth. So this is really important, and technology drives economy and wireless drives technology. And certainly we can all recognize that different countries might need different policy tools of the future to expand broadband that is connecting us and is allowing us to use the different services and different applications. The massive ongoing investment are essential to maintain and expand the telecommunication infrastructure that is needed. But at the same time, we have to keep this investment going. We need to have a leadership that is committed to constant innovation, to constant reinvigoration of the business, and to constant and persistent investment times. And in order to attract investment, you do need also a policy framework that is conducive to investment and then again can attract that. So what do I mean with that? Well, basically two main conditions. First of all, the spectrum. Certainly, as you have been hearing also from other speakers, is essential. Not only bold and allocation of spectrum that is more and more needed, provided all the services that are arising and all the different applications that we are using, but we also need a spectrum that is harmonized and possibly evergreen, so to allow to telecom operators to be able and invest with these, with the spectrum.
To affordable internet, especially in the developing world. In Kenya, we launched a broadband strategy in 2013. And in that strategy, it was a little bit ambitious. We were targeting by the year 2030 to have 2 gigabits per second speeds in urban areas and 500 megabits in the rural areas. We were also targeting 35% penetration of broadband in households and 100% penetration of broadband in all schools by the year 2017. We were also targeting penetration of broadband in health facilities by 100% in the year 2017. Some of the issues that have been discussed in our broadband strategy are the Universal Service Fund. We realize that we need better management of Universal Service Funds and community involvement in how the USF are used. The Universal Service Fund should not only be used to provide infrastructure investments in underserved regions, but also promote digital literacy. Digital literacy, we saw Khalid from Worldwide Web Foundation, he came with some interesting facts. According to the Alliance for Affordable Internet, the key to affordability is the policy and regulatory environment that shape the different actors in the market. Reform to make markets more open, competitive, and socially effective are often the best and quickest way to drive prices down and increase broadband use. We have also had issues on licenses. In Kenya, we licensed 2 mobile virtual network operators just August this year, who actually are riding on the existing infrastructure from other competitors. You realize that when they share this infrastructure, they reduce investment in capital outlay. So the new players will actually use the existing infrastructure, which is very good because now the cost to the end user will be a little bit lower than if these companies were laying their own infrastructure. We also realize that we need efficient spectrum management, and the spectrum management should be open, transparent, and there should be fair allocation and licensing mechanisms. We have some other infrastructure-based policy issues, like sharing of masts and fiber through these different operators. We find that the government of Kenya had laid the job again, and it becomes very expensive, and this cost will at the end be passed to the end user. We also find that establishing internet exchange points actually improve the speed of the internet, and they also provide data caching. The Axis project in Africa, through the partnership of Internet Society and African Union, has already set up about 4 internet exchange points and held trainings across the continent. This project has become very successful, and I think it should actually be rolled across other regions of the world. One major issue that we face in broadband in Africa is actually energy. There cannot be access without affordable, sustainable electricity. Electricity is very expensive per kilowatt in developing countries. This cost is usually passed down to the end users. Developing countries should seriously look for permanent ways of solving the perennial energy problems. Of course, we are also supposed to be more creative and power maybe our computer laboratory using solar and wind energy, but these are not really enough for us. Finally, we also find that we need to have relevant local content. We should develop policies that support relevant local content that users will feel the need to consume. Most societies, of course, have solved the content problem to a greater extent. We also realize that we need to collect data of the key indicators so that we can be able to measure the effectiveness of the policies that we are actually implementing in our regions. That is all I have. I hope I've been clear enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vendoa. Please keep it online because maybe some audience ask you some questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Now, I think we already, the time is wrong, we run out, but I want to ask the
broadband, how to develop the broadband and in developing countries. This is excellent. So I want to have the question to the Kenya speakers. Do you have some national strategies how to develop the broadband in Kenya? Thank you very much.
Mr. Vendoa, you catch the questions from Cody?
Yes, I've got the question.
Yeah, you can answer.
Yes, we have a national broadband strategy, and this broadband strategy has different categories of growing our internet access. For example, we are saying that by the year 2017, we want to improve our urban broadband speeds to 40 megabytes per second, and by 2022, we want to increase the urban speeds for our broadband to 300 megabits per second. And by the year 2030, we want to improve the broadband speeds to 2 gigabits per second. The speeds in Kenya are not that bad as the speaker is presenting, only that it's all about affordability. You find that these companies have things they call packages or products that they are selling to the consumer. So if you are not financially stable, you will actually buy a broadband with less speed than a person with who does not have who is rich. For example, at the University of Nairobi, where I work, our speeds are about 500 megabits per second, and that is why I'm able to present online, because we have actually good internet. The issue actually is about affordability. We find that the business that we are trying to make a profit, they cannot be able to afford buying a very expensive link, or they are not even connected to fiber. But the national broadband strategy that was initiated in the year 2013 is addressing all this with key outlines on how they will be able to solve the broadband issues that we are facing. And I can share the link to our national broadband strategy for any people who would like to be able to go through it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Werner. Yeah, maybe this gentleman. Yeah, you have a.
First of all, I would like to thank all of the panelists for their interesting presentations, and of course the moderator for leading the session. I have two questions to Mr. Khalid Furati. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. So what technology do you see as most promising and cost efficient for last mile wireless deployments, like 3G, LTE, maybe WiMAX, or maybe some other? And the second question, you mentioned about universal service funds for basically the supply side enhancement of broadband accessibility, and you also mentioned about wide critique connected with USF deployments in a sense that they were not that successful in reaching their goals, and it seems that the Kenya example from our remote participant, remote speaker, supports your view. So can you please name a couple of countries with maybe successful USF implementations that have overall reached their aims? Huh? Thank you so much.
Could you please introduce yourself first?
I'm Armen Galumian from Armenia. I represent a civil society organization, and also I'm an individual ICT expert. So my interest in participation in the IGF forum is twofold. Impact of ICTs on civil society development and maybe vice versa, and also professional interest in the ICT area.
Okay, thank you for your question. Now please, Mr. have your answer.
Sure, thank you. Two very important questions, thank you very much. I was actually in Mozambique a couple of weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, and talked with some of the service providers there in the context of the national IGF sort of meeting. And clearly in the Mozambique context, and this is not only in the Mozambique context, extending to rural areas or extending to universal service, we're talking still about 2G. So we're not even on 3G level. So I'm assuming that over the next few years we'll get to 3G and definitely not to LTE. That's probably over the next, I don't know how much. I mean, I'm not going to get into the predictions of time because usually you're always wrong when you go into that process. And technology is so disruptive and things change fast. But what's actually most important for me is, especially in rural areas and extending the network in rural areas, is to not lock in the market and enabling some experimentation on the ground with different type of unlicensed, in my view, unlicensed spectrum would be, I think, a good way to go. Whether TV wide spectrum, and the technology into TV wide spectrum is a bit expensive at this point, but I think it will go down. And there are a few experiments in the African context. I can't speak about the Asian context, but there are experiments in South Africa, Kenya, that's more known, but also in Malawi, in Mozambique, also the regulator is experimenting with TV white spaces. Why I'm saying that? Because I believe that in order to extend the network to rural areas, let's face it, the mobile operator would not, it's too costly for, at a certain point, to mobile operator to go there. And the best way to do it is to use some of the service funds mechanism, so subsidizing, or innovating. And innovating with new technology, allowing people who are coming in, entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs, who can build the community-based network through these type of new technologies. So that's what I think this space, watch this space in my view, this would be quite interesting to look at.
Through community access points, you mean?
Yes. On the other point, on the USF, again, very important question. The problem of the Universal Service Fund is the problem of disbursement. So the government it was very good at collecting money, but not dispersing money, right? Because it's sort of a tax on the mobile operators. And the problem of disbursement is, I think my colleague from Kenya presented some good solutions of how to go about mitigating that. I think you need to bring in the private sector, private providers into the context. I think one could work through universities. I think a good way to use universal service funds is to support the NRES, the National Research and Education Networks, which in collaboration with, for instance, in this East and Southern African context, the Woodland Alliance that you saw on that graph with Gian, it's a good way of dispersing money quickly and good value for money. Some of the way that Malaysia has had a good experience with USF. Pakistan has had good experience with USF, that there were good case studies in Pakistan. Those are the countries that come to mind.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thanks a lot for the very
megabits per second. Just now you said there are any trial systems. Actually, from about 8 years ago, our government launched some trial system. Actually, I'm one of the project leader. At that time, we established our trial system in the year 2006. The data rate is about 122 megabits per second. And about 3 years later, and also our project leader, the data rate is about 1 gigabits per second. I mean, this is for wireless access. I think maybe for LTE, the minimum data rate is about 100 megabits per second. I mean, we constructed this kind of trial system in the year 2006. And the maximum data rate for wireless access is about 1 gigabits. And from this year, our government also launched a new project. At this time, we tried to establish 10 gigabits per second wireless access within 3 years. Thank you.
I think because the time limit is over, maybe I ask a last question. And also I leave the question for remote participants. Have some remote participants some question?
Yes, we have one question. Test. We have question from Alexander Saruk, Parliament of Ukraine. He asks, we are working on a national broadband plan of Ukraine and need to access the best practice.
Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. Also, you can use you can use Chinese to search on the Google, and you will find it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I think you have question, yeah? Okay, last one, please.
Thank you. I am Syed Qazi and I represent India because we have a delegation from China, speakers from China, so my questions was obvious to ask. Because Jia had mentioned in our presentation also that there's a regional imbalances in access and connectivity and all. So my question is that to both Jia and maybe Ling Zi, is that what is the mechanism that you have devised or any strategy for last mile connectivity using wireless solutions and also unlicensed spectrum that Khalid has mentioned. So I just wanted to know that. And so probably one question to Khalid is that what could be the most important thing to convey to the government or the public authorities that unlicensed spectrum or the wireless thing is an alternative solution to connect remote areas in a country like India and China, because so far-flung areas and all, because in India the wireless thing is still yet to come up in a big way, unlicensed spectrum. We as a foundation, Digital Empowerment Foundation, has implemented as an implementing agency, we have used that unlicensed spectrum to connect communities, clusters, and probably and also advocating this policy to the government. And next year we have an international congress we are organizing on wireless technologies and solutions. So what would be the point that could be convincing to the government, of the day? So 2 questions to 2 different panels. Thank you.
I think, what's important to get the message to regulator is that unlicensed does not mean unregulated. And unlicensed is actually regulated because you have specific bands where you basically convey the waves. So it doesn't mean that you're not regulating, actually. You are regulating. It's that you are enabling experimentation. And those regulators, at least in the African context that I'm aware of, that have gone this route, actually these projects are in close collaboration with the regulator. And I'm assuming that specifically in India, there is a great emphasis on bringing the rural areas, connectivity to rural areas. So in a sense, you have, in my view, to one, convey the message that this is not free for all, but also you're actually helping out the base of the pyramid and people who are on a $2 per day that need actually affordable connectivity. So that's actually my thoughts for now, but we're happy to take it further with you for lunch. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe the first question I ask Ms. He, to make some answer to you.
First, thank you for your question, and it's a very good question. And for the last mile problem, actually in China, we do have some solutions. From my own opinion, I want to divide this problem into 3 aspects. First, I think the last mile problem is raised by the real estate diplomas, because the company want to build the building in this area, but usually in the past they wouldn't like to invest on the infrastructures. So how to solve those problems? So Chinese government published a national FTTH standards last year, and we said for all the new buildings, all the new homes, the developers must construct those fiber infrastructures at the same time as water, electricity, and gas systems. They need to construct them together in the building. Not only in the building, but also to the homes. So if you buy the new house, and you will, it's available for you to access to access with fibers, and that's the one part. The second part, the problem was raised by the house management. You know, the house management means the company who provides services for the houses, for the apartment. Usually in the past, there are some situations that wouldn't like to allow too much ISPs into the area, into the building. So it's a little bit like constraints for the users. But currently, for them, we also it's a compulsory regulation for the companies. They should open the market, should be equal access. So all the users could be freely to choose any ISPs as they like. That's the second part. The third part is usually the problem is raised by the ISPs because in the past we have few ISPs and many of them are state-owned. But currently the situation is changing. We issued a new policy. We said private capital could be involved into the market. So currently we have more ISPs, even include the private companies. So actually for the users, you have more choices. So that's why the price will be reduced. So as far as I know, we still have many other solutions. But because of the limited time, we can share the ideas after this meeting. Thank you.
You can share more information after meeting. I think make some how to develop application for broadband network on internet by Tencent. Please, Mr. Jian.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for all the panelists' impressive presentation today. I'm from Tencent, which is the top internet company in China. Seldom people don't know Tencent in China, because we provide internet service for billions of people. And our product include QQ, like Amazon, and Qzone, like Facebook, and email, portal, and WeChat, and games, and many other internet services. Just now, Anna Neves from Portugal raised the question, why we need to promote broadband broadband construction. And she analyzed the issue from different angle, compared with the other panelists. And also, Madam Jia mentioned that in China we have a broadband alliance. Tencent is one of the members of this alliance. As a service provider, we are one of the stakeholders of it. and actually, for broadband construction in China, we are the beneficiary and intentionally, we treat customer value as first priority rather than making profit. And if the bandwidth is not broad and fast enough, our customer cannot have a good experience for our service. On the other hand, the lag behind bandwidth will become the barrier of internet innovation. So, maybe, we, from Tencent, we have very famous app called WeChat. Now, the subscriber has reached more than 400 million users. And the outside China users has reached 200 million users. So for those app, it's not just a communication platform. Now we treat it as a connector to connect with the people, connect with things, and to connect with industry, even connect with everything. So if you need to serve the people well, we need the have the good broadband infrastructure. So with the, you can see China, from the China government make a great effort on the broadband construction. And just now, the panelists have already gave the very good introduction. And also, last year, also for this IGF meeting, we were discussing about the topic is the relationship between OTT and operators. Could OTT win-win with operators? But this year, I don't think that's a problem again. And we can see that definitely OTTs can contribute a lot on the data traffic. Why we need to build the high-speed way? The operators invest a lot to build the high-speed way. So the traffic, they will welcome the applications on the road to can make a great contribution on the data traffic contribution. So that's kind of relationship between the service providers, the OTT, and the operators. Just now the telecommunication, from China Telecommunication, Mr. Wu also introduced a lot on the China broadband construction. I just, I think I don't have any question on it. I just echo with the panelists and to say that's very, that's for the broadband construction, that's meaningful for our service provider. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Jiang. Because time is over, I have to conclude the workshop. So lastly, I would like to say thank you all to join us. And particularly, I want to thank all the distinguished panelists for your contribution and your interesting presentation. Give us a lot of advice, ideas, and very useful for policy makers. So thank you again. Goodbye.
Thank you.